Hello. I'm really glad you're here tonight. This hour is different from the rest of the day. It doesn't ask you to decide anything. It doesn't ask you to perform or explain or keep up. It simply invites you to lie still and let your thoughts move at their own pace through a world that existed long before our own. A world that thrived with its own rhythms, its own wisdom, its own understanding of what it meant to live fully. As the years pass, nighttime becomes a kind of companion, a place where the mind is free to wander, not just through your own memories, but through the memories of humanity itself, where the lives of people who walked this earth centuries ago return to us, not urgently, but patiently, where understanding settles in quietly about how people lived, loved, worked, and found meaning in times and places vastly different from our own. Later in life, the mind doesn't race the way it once did. It reflects, it revisits, it connects dots that once seemed unrelated. And tonight, it will connect you to the daily rhythms of the Kingdom of Kongo, a sophisticated African civilization that flourished for centuries, where people woke each morning to purposes and patterns that shaped their entire existence. This space is for those thoughts, the ones that don't surface during the day, the ones that arrive only when you're alone with yourself, resting, remembering, and gently making sense of how humans have always sought the same things across time, how we've always needed community, purpose, ritual, and rest. So take a slow breath, let your body soften into the bed, and allow this night to meet you where you are, as we journey together into a world both foreign and familiar, a world where the sun rose over the Congo River basin and illuminated lives as complex and meaningful as your own. And now, before we begin, if this kind of honest, gentle reflection speaks to you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And down in the comments, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is where you are right now. There's something comforting about knowing we're all here together, scattered across time zones, but united in these late hours when the world finally grows still. So settle in. Adjust your pillows. Find a comfortable position and know that for the next hour, you're not alone in whatever wisdom you're carrying, whatever understanding you've earned, whatever truths rise to the surface when the lights go out. Let's begin. You're lying in bed right now, in your own time, in your own place. But tonight, as your breathing slows and your body settles, we're going to let your mind travel backward, not frantically, not with the urgency of study or test-taking, but gently, the way memory moves, the way understanding deepens when you have time to simply be present with it. We're traveling to the Kingdom of Kongo, not the Congo you might know from modern maps, but the Congo that existed 500 years ago, 600 years ago, a kingdom that stretched across what is now northern Angola, the western portions of the Democratic Republic of Congo, the Republic of Congo, and southern Gabon, a kingdom as large as some European nations, a kingdom with a sophisticated government, complex trade networks, spiritual depth, and daily rhythms as intricate as any civilization that has ever existed. Imagine waking in this kingdom, not as a visitor, not as an outsider, but as someone who belongs there, someone whose life is woven into the fabric of this place, someone for whom this is simply home. The morning begins before dawn. It always has. Just as it did for you, perhaps, during certain phases of your life. When you had children to prepare for school, when you had work that required early rising, when your body's rhythms aligned with the sun rather than artificial light. In the Kingdom of Kongo, morning begins when the air is still cool, when darkness is just beginning to thin at the edges, when the first birds start their calls and the village begins to stir with quiet purpose. You wake on a woven mat, not a bed as you know it, but a carefully crafted mat made from raffia palm fibers. Someone made this mat, someone who knew the art of weaving, who knew which fibers to select, how to prepare them, how to create something both functional and beautiful. This mat has supported your body through countless nights. It knows the shape of you, the weight of you. It has been your constant companion in sleep, just as your own bed has been for you. The dwelling around you is made of clay and timber. The walls are thick enough to keep the interior cool during the heat of the day. The roof is thatched with palm fronds, layered so carefully that rain runs off without a single drop entering your home. Someone built this house. Maybe your father, maybe your husband, maybe you helped build it yourself, mixing the clay, shaping the walls, creating shelter with your own hands. You understand shelter differently when you've built it yourself. When you know every beam, every support, every vulnerable place that needs attention after heavy rains. This isn't just a structure, it's an extension of your knowledge, your effort, your understanding of how to create safety in the world. You rise slowly. Your body knows this transition from sleep to waking. Your muscles remember the sequence of movements, standing, stretching, rolling the sleeping mat, and storing it against the wall. These actions require no thought. They're as automatic as breathing, as familiar as your own heartbeat. The air smells different here than in your time. There's no exhaust, no industrial pollution, no chemical cleaning products. Instead, there's smoke from cooking fires just beginning to be lit. There's the rich, dark smell of earth after night's coolness. There's the green scent of vegetation, the subtle sweetness of flowers opening, the complex perfume of a world unmediated by modern life. You step outside. The village is arranged in a way that makes sense, that has evolved over generations. The houses cluster together, creating natural pathways between them. The paths have been walked so many times that the earth is packed hard and smooth. You could walk these paths in complete darkness and never stumble. Your feet know every turn, every slight incline, every place where roots rise just slightly above the ground. Other people are emerging from their homes too. You greet them, not with rushed hellos, not with the distracted acknowledgements of people who are already thinking about their commute or their schedules, but with genuine recognition. These are people you've known your entire life, whose families have lived alongside your family for generations, who share not just proximity but connection, history, mutual dependence. In the Kingdom of Kongo, you cannot survive alone. The entire structure of society is built on reciprocity, on mutual obligation, on the understanding that your well-being and your neighbor's well-being are inseparable. This creates a different kind of social fabric than you might know in your modern life. A different kind of security, a different kind of responsibility. You're part of a clan. This isn't just family in the nuclear sense. This is extended kinship that defines almost everything about your social position. Your clan determines who you can marry, what kind of work you're expected to do, who you can call on for help, who can call on you. It's a network of relationship so dense and complex that you navigate it without conscious thought. The way you navigate language or walk without thinking about each individual step. The morning's first task is water. You take a clay pot, balanced carefully on your head or carried in your arms. This pot was made by someone in your village who knows the art of pottery, who knows which clay to dig, how to shape it, how to fire it so it becomes strong enough to carry water day after day without cracking. You've carried this particular pot for years. You know its weight, its balance, the slight irregularity in its rim where the maker's fingers pressed just a bit harder. You walk to the water source, maybe a river, maybe a spring, maybe a well that was dug by communal effort. The path to water is well worn. You've walked it thousands of times. As a child, following your mother. As a young woman, walking with friends. As an adult, teaching your own children where to find water, how to carry it, how to treat this essential resource with respect. At the water source, you meet others. This is a social space, a place where news is shared, where gossip travels, where the concerns of the community are discussed. You learn who is sick, who has given birth, what disputes need mediation, what celebrations are being planned. The water source is more than functional. It's a hub of communication, a place where the village understands itself through constant, casual exchange of information. You fill your pot. The water is cool and clear. You might drink directly from your cupped hands, feeling the coldness on your lips, the satisfaction of thirst quenched. This water tastes different than water from a tap. It tastes like the earth it came from, like the rocks it flowed over, like the specific geography of this place. Carrying water back to your home, you're aware of the weight, of the need for balance, of the skill required to transport something so essential without spilling. This is work your body has trained for since childhood. Your neck muscles are strong. Your spine knows how to align. Your gait adjusts automatically to the burden you carry. Back at your dwelling, the day's work begins in earnest. If you're a woman, much of your day revolves around food preparation. This isn't the simple task of opening packages or reheating prepared meals. This is the complex, time-consuming work of transforming raw ingredients into nourishment. You might begin by grinding grain. You have a mortar and pestle carved from hardwood, heavy, solid. You pour grain into the mortar and begin the rhythmic work of pounding. The pestle rises and falls. Your arms move in a pattern so familiar, it's almost meditative. Pound, lift, pound, lift. The grain slowly breaks down into meal, into flour, into something that can be cooked. This work takes time, real time. Not the minutes you might spend in a modern kitchen, but hours. And as you work, you think, you remember, you process the events of your life through the rhythm of repetitive labor. This is when problems get solved, when decisions get made, when grief gets processed, when joy gets contemplated. The work of your hands creates space for the work of your mind. Other women might join you. Food preparation is often communal. You work together, talk together, share the burden of labor that would be crushing if done alone. You discuss marriages, children, conflicts, dreams. The same topics women have discussed throughout all of human history. The specifics change, but the fundamental concerns remain constant across time and culture. The food you prepare is varied. Cassava is a staple. You know how to process it properly, how to remove the toxins through careful preparation. There's yam, there's banana, there's palm oil for cooking. There might be fish if the men have been successful. There might be meat if hunters have brought back game. There's okra, there's leafy greens. The diet is rich and diverse, drawn from the abundance of this fertile region. You cook over an open fire. You know how to build this fire, how to select wood that burns hot and clean, how to arrange stones to support your cooking pot, how to regulate temperature by adding or removing fuel. This knowledge isn't written anywhere. It lives in your body, in your experience, in the teaching you receive from your mother and grandmother, in the practice of thousands of meals prepared over thousands of days. The smoke rises. It scents your clothes, your hair, your skin. This is the smell of home, the smell of food being prepared, the smell of care being taken to nourish your family. Years from now, if you smelled this particular combination of wood smoke and cooking food, you would be transported instantly back to this moment, to this place, to this life. If you're a man, your work is different, but equally essential. You might be a farmer. You leave the village in the morning, walking to the fields that your family cultivates. These fields have been worked for generations. The soil is known, its qualities understood, where it's rich and where it's poor, where water collects after rain and where it drains too quickly. You work with a hoe, a simple tool, just iron and wood. But in your hands, it's an extension of your will, your knowledge, your relationship with the earth. You know how deep to dig, how to break up the soil without exhausting yourself, how to create the conditions for seeds to germinate and plants to thrive. The work is hard, physical. Your muscles strain, sweat runs down your back. The sun climbs higher and the heat increases. But this isn't suffering. This is purpose. You're creating food. You're fulfilling your obligation to your family, to your clan, to the larger community that depends on everyone doing their part. You might work alongside other men, brothers, cousins, friends. You work in companionable silence or easy conversation. You help each other. If one man's field needs extra attention, others will come to assist. This reciprocity isn't transactional. You don't keep careful account of who owes what to whom. You simply help because that's what people do. Because you know that when you need help, it will be there. Or perhaps you're a craftsman, a blacksmith, shaping iron into tools and weapons. You know the secrets of your craft. How to heat metal until it glows. How to hammer it into shape. How to temper it so it holds an edge. This knowledge is valuable, precious. You learned it through years of apprenticeship. Now you pass it on to your own apprentices, teaching them not just techniques, but the entire worldview that underlies your craft. Or perhaps you're a weaver, creating the raffia cloth that everyone needs. Your hands move through complex patterns without conscious thought. Over, under, pull tight. The rhythm is hypnotic. The cloth grows slowly, thread by thread, creating fabric that will become clothing, sleeping mats, wall hangings, gifts for important occasions. Or perhaps you're a trader. You travel between villages and towns carrying goods, exchanging information, maintaining the networks that connect distant communities. You know the paths. You know which chiefs to greet, what gifts to offer, what news is valuable, what prices are fair. You're a mobile node in a vast network of exchange that spans the entire kingdom and beyond. The Kingdom of Kongo isn't isolated. It's connected to the wider world through trade routes that have existed for centuries. You know about the kingdom's relationship with the Portuguese, who arrived in the late 15th century. This relationship is complex. There's trade. There's cultural exchange. There's the adoption of Christianity by some of the nobility. There's also tension, exploitation, the terrible reality of the slave trade that will eventually devastate this region. But in your daily life, these large political realities feel distant. What matters is the work in front of you, the people around you, the immediate concerns of survival and community and meaning-making. Midday arrives. The sun is directly overhead. The heat is intense. Work slows. This is the time for rest, for eating the midday meal, for seeking shade and allowing your body to recover from the morning's exertions. You eat with your family, with your neighbors. Food is shared. You sit together in the shade of a large tree or inside a dwelling where the thick walls keep the interior cool. You eat with your hands, the way humans have eaten for most of history. The food is simple but nourishing, filling your belly, providing the energy you need to continue. Conversation flows. There's laughter. There's gossip. There's discussion of community matters. A dispute between two families that needs mediation. A wedding being planned. A child who is sick. A crop that's struggling. The concerns are immediate and concrete, grounded in the reality of this place, this community, this moment in time. Children play nearby. Their laughter and shouts provide a soundtrack to adult conversation. They're inventing games, exploring, learning through play. They're not supervised the way children might be in your time. They move freely through the village, watched collectively by all the adults. It takes a village to raise a child, and in the Kingdom of Kongo, this isn't just a saying. It's the literal reality of how children are cared for and socialized. After the heat of midday passes, work resumes. The afternoon has its own rhythm, different from morning. Your body is more tired now. The work feels heavier, but you continue because this is what life requires. Because everyone continues. Because the community depends on each person fulfilling their role. Women might spend the afternoon processing food for preservation, drying fish, smoking meat, preparing cassava to be stored. The work is endless because food security requires constant effort. You can't simply go to a store when supplies run low. You must produce, preserve, and protect every bit of nutrition that will carry your family through leaner times. Men might continue in the fields, or they might turn to other tasks, repairing tools, maintaining structures, cutting wood, clearing brush. The work of maintaining a village never ends. There's always something that needs attention, something that's wearing out, something that's breaking down and needs repair. As afternoon turns toward evening, there's a shift in the air. The heat begins to ease. The light begins to change. The quality of the day transforms from the harsh brightness of midday to the softer golden light of late afternoon. This is when you might have time for crafts, for art, for the work that isn't strictly necessary for survival, but that makes life beautiful, meaningful, human. You might work on decorative carving, on creating beautiful objects for ritual use, on making music. The Kingdom of Kongo has rich musical traditions. There are drums, mbira, horns, voices raised in complex harmonies. Music isn't separate from daily life. It's woven through everything. Work songs that make labor easier, songs for ceremonies, songs for celebrations, songs that tell stories and preserve history. You might spend time in spiritual practice. The people of Congo have deep spiritual beliefs. You understand the world as animated by spirits. Your ancestors are present, watching over you, requiring respect and offerings. There are nature spirits associated with rivers, forests, particular trees, or stones. There's a supreme creator God, but your daily spiritual practice focuses more on the immediate spirits who affect your life directly. You might visit a shrine, offer food or drink, speak to your ancestors, ask for guidance, express gratitude. This isn't superstition to you. It's the literal reality of how the world works. The spiritual and material realms are inseparable. What happens in one affects the other. Your well-being depends on maintaining right relationship with the spirit world, just as much as it depends on farming, or trading, or cooking. Evening arrives. The sun sinks toward the horizon. The air cools noticeably. The light becomes beautiful, painting everything in gold and amber and rose. This is a peaceful time, a time when the day's work is done and the night hasn't yet fully arrived. You return home if you've been away. You gather with family. The evening meal is prepared. This is often the main meal of the day. The food that's been cooking slowly all afternoon. The nourishment that will carry you through the night. You eat together. This is important. Not just the food itself, but the gathering, the sharing, the ritual of sitting together and nourishing yourselves collectively. You talk about the day. What happened? What needs to happen tomorrow? You laugh. You tell stories. You maintain the bonds that hold your family together. After the meal, as darkness settles, the village transforms again. Fires are lit, not for cooking now, but for light, for warmth, for gathering around. People collect in common spaces. There's no television, no phones, no individual entertainment. Instead, there's communal storytelling. The elders speak. They tell the histories, the myths, the stories that explain who you are as a people, where you came from, how the world came to be. These aren't just entertaining tales. They're education. They're the transmission of cultural knowledge from one generation to the next. They're how you understand your place in the world, your obligations, your identity. You listen. You've heard these stories before, many times, but they're always worth hearing again. Each telling reveals something new. Each time you hear them, you're at a different point in your own life, and the stories speak to you differently. They're not fixed texts. They're living traditions that grow and change, even as they preserve essential truths. Children sit close to the fire, their eyes wide with wonder. They're absorbing these stories in ways that go deeper than conscious learning. The narratives are entering their bones, their understanding of who they are, what it means to be part of this community, this kingdom, this long line of people stretching back into time immemorial. You remember being a child listening to these same stories, how the firelight danced on the storyteller's face, how their voice rose and fell, how you felt transported into the world they were creating with words, how you believed every word absolutely, how those stories shaped your understanding of courage, wisdom, loyalty, and what it means to live a good life. Now you might be the elder telling the stories, or you might still be listening, but with different ears, with the understanding that comes from having lived through joy and sorrow, from having made mistakes, from having learned hard lessons. The stories mean something different now than they did when you were young. They're not just entertaining. They're guides, warnings, reassurances that others have faced what you're facing, that humans have always struggled with the same fundamental questions. The fire crackles, sparks rise into the darkness. The night sky above is brilliant with stars, more stars than you can see in your own time, where light pollution obscures most of the celestial display. Here, the Milky Way is a river of light across the sky. The moon, when it's present, casts real shadows. The darkness, when it's complete, is absolute. You're not afraid of this darkness. You've known it all your life. You understand its rhythms, its sounds. The village at night has its own music, crickets, night birds, the occasional call of a nocturnal animal in the distance, the sounds of people settling in their homes, babies crying, mothers singing lullabies, couples talking quietly, the soft sounds of a community preparing for sleep. As the evening deepens, people begin to drift away from the communal fire. They return to their own dwellings, to their own families, to the private space where the day ends and rest begins. You walk back to your home. The path is familiar, even in darkness. Your feet know every step. The night air is cool now, comfortable. The heat of the day has dissipated completely. Inside your home, you prepare for sleep. You unroll your sleeping mat. You might lie down with your spouse beside you, your bodies fitting together in the way they've learned over years of sleeping side by side. Or you might sleep alone, surrounded by children, or with extended family members. Privacy, as you understand it, in your modern time, doesn't exist in quite the same way here. Space is shared, lives overlap, boundaries are different. You lie on your mat and the day settles over you. Your muscles ache pleasantly from the work you've done. Your belly is full from the evening meal. Your mind is full of the stories you've heard, the conversations you've had, the connections you've maintained with the people who make up your world. You think about tomorrow. It will be much like today. The same rhythms, the same responsibilities, the same people, the same place. This repetition isn't boring to you. It's comforting. It's the structure that gives meaning to your life. You know your role. You know what's expected. You know how to fulfill your obligations. This knowledge brings peace. But there are also variations. Special days. Market days when traders come from distant places bringing goods and news. Days of ceremony and ritual. Birth celebrations. Weddings. Funerals. Initiation rites. The agricultural calendar with its planting times and harvest times. The rainy season and the dry season, each with its own demands and rhythms. You remember the great gatherings you've attended, when multiple villages come together, when the king's representatives arrive to collect tribute or settle disputes, when important decisions are made that affect the entire region. You've seen the symbols of power, the royal regalia, the leopard skins and copper bracelets that denote authority, the complex protocols that govern interactions between different ranks in society. The Kingdom of Kongo has a sophisticated political structure. At the top is the Mani-Kongo, the king, who rules from the capital city of Mbanza, Congo. Below him are provincial governors. Below them are local chiefs. The entire system is held together by networks of obligation and tribute, by shared belief in the legitimacy of this hierarchy, by the understanding that order requires structure, and structure requires someone to hold authority. You might never see the king yourself. He's distant, almost mythical, but you feel his presence in the tribute you pay, in the laws you follow, in the officials who occasionally pass through your village. The kingdom is real even if its highest manifestations are remote from your daily life. You think about the changes you've witnessed. If you're old enough, you remember when the Portuguese first arrived. How strange they seemed, how pale their skin, how different their clothing, how incomprehensible their language, how powerful their weapons, how hungry they were for slaves and ivory and copper. Some in the kingdom welcomed the Portuguese, saw opportunities for trade, for new goods, for new alliances. The Mani-Kongo himself converted to Christianity, taking the name Afonso. This created ripples throughout the kingdom. New beliefs mixing with old ones. New practices layered over traditional ones. Some people embraced Christianity. Others resisted. Others found ways to blend the new religion with ancestral beliefs, creating something unique to this place and time. You might be Christian yourself. You might attend Mass when a priest visits. You might wear a cross. You might baptize your children. But you also maintain the old practices. You still honor your ancestors. You still make offerings at shrines. You still believe in the spirits that animate the natural world. These beliefs don't contradict each other in your mind. They coexist. They're different languages for speaking about the sacred. Or perhaps you've rejected Christianity entirely. Perhaps you see it as foreign, as a threat to the old ways, as connected to the terrible trade in human beings that's beginning to tear at the fabric of your society. The slave trade is a shadow growing larger, a violence that's spreading, a horror that's transforming relationships between communities from cooperation to predation. You've heard stories of people stolen from their villages, of wars fought primarily to capture prisoners who can be sold, of the march to the coast, of the terrible ships that carry people away across an ocean so vast it's impossible to imagine, away from everything they know, everyone they love, into slavery so complete it's a kind of death. Maybe someone you knew was taken, a cousin, a friend, someone who simply disappeared one day and never returned. This loss sits heavy in your community, in your heart. It's a grief that has no resolution, no body to bury, no certainty about what happened, just absence where there used to be presence. Or perhaps you're more directly involved in this trade. Perhaps you're a soldier who captures prisoners, or a trader who exchanges captives for European goods. Perhaps you've rationalized this, told yourself these are enemies, criminals, people who deserve their fate. Perhaps you've pushed away the knowledge of what you're participating in. Perhaps you carry guilt that surfaces in the night when you can't distract yourself. The Kingdom of Kongo is caught in terrible forces. The slave trade will eventually devastate this region, will depopulate entire areas, will destroy the political stability that has allowed this kingdom to flourish, will create trauma that echoes through generations. But you don't know this yet. You can't see the full scope of what's coming. You're simply living your life as best you can in the circumstances you've been given. You shift on your sleeping mat, your body seeking comfort. The night is deep now. Most of the village is silent. Most people are sleeping. You can hear the breathing of those near you, the small sounds of bodies at rest. This is peaceful, safe. For this moment, in this place, you're secure. You think about the land itself, the earth you've worked, the rivers you've fished, the forests you've hunted in. This land is alive to you. It's not property in the abstract sense. It's relationship. You're part of this land, and it's part of you. Your ancestors are buried here. Their bodies have become soil. The food you eat is grown in earth, enriched by those who came before you. This creates a different relationship to place than you might know in your modern, mobile life. You can't just leave. This is your home in the deepest sense. Your identity is tied to this specific geography, these specific people, this specific community. To leave would be to lose yourself, to become unmoored from everything that gives your life meaning. You think about the seasons, how they cycle through the year, the rains that come with such force that the world transforms into mud and water, the dry season when the earth cracks and water becomes precious, the times of planting when everyone works together to get seeds into the ground, the times of harvest when everyone works together to bring in the crops before they spoil. Your life is synchronized with these natural rhythms in ways that modern life rarely allows. You can't control the weather. You can't manufacture abundance when nature provides scarcity. You're dependent on forces beyond your control. This creates a kind of humility, an acceptance, an understanding that humans are not the masters of the world, but participants in systems much larger than ourselves. You think about children. how they're raised, how they learn. There are no schools in the formal sense, but education is constant. Children learn by watching, by doing, by being included in adult work from an early age. A child learns to cook by helping her mother, learns to farm by following his father to the fields, learns crafts by apprenticing to skilled workers. This education is practical, immediately applicable. Children learn what they need to know to survive and contribute to the community. But they also learn stories, songs, dances, rituals. They learn their history, their identity, their obligations. They learn the complex web of relationships that defines their social world. There are initiation ceremonies that mark the transition from childhood to adulthood. These are serious, sometimes frightening. They involve tests, teachings, transformations. A child goes into the initiation and an adult emerges. The community recognizes this change, begins treating the young person differently, expecting more, granting new privileges, imposing new responsibilities. You remember your own initiation, how nervous you were, how the older initiates seemed so knowing, so powerful, how you learned secrets that children aren't allowed to know, how you felt transformed by the experience, how you carried yourself differently afterward, how you were different afterward. You think about marriage, how it's arranged, how it's not primarily about romantic love, though love often develops, how it's about alliances between families, between clans, how it creates networks of obligation that strengthen the entire community, how your marriage was negotiated by elders, how you met your spouse on your wedding day, or perhaps only briefly before, how you learned to live together, work together, build a life together. Some marriages are happy, some are not. But happiness isn't quite the point. The point is stability, continuation, the production of children who will carry on the clan, the fulfillment of social obligations. You do your best within this structure. You find affection where you can. You create intimacy within the constraints of your situation. You think about death, how it's understood, how it's not an ending but a transformation. The dead become ancestors. They remain present in the community. They're consulted, honored, fed. They have power to bless or curse the living. Maintaining right relationship with the ancestors is essential for well-being. You've attended funerals, elaborate affairs that can last for days, with rituals that ensure the deceased transitions properly to the ancestral realm, with mourning that's communal, loud, physical, with expressions of grief that would seem excessive in your modern context, but that feel necessary and appropriate here, with offerings and sacrifices that honor the dead and ensure their benevolent presence in the lives of those who remain. You've lost people, parents, siblings, friends, children, perhaps. The grief is real, deep, but it exists within a framework that makes it bearable. The dead aren't gone. They're transformed. They're still part of your world. You can still speak to them, still feel their presence, still receive their guidance. You shift again on your mat. Sleep is coming closer now. Your thoughts are becoming less linear, more dreamlike. The boundary between waking and sleeping is thin. You're drifting back and forth across it. You think about beauty, how it's created and appreciated in this kingdom. The carved wooden figures used in rituals, the woven textiles with their complex patterns, the beadwork, the body modifications, scarification that marks identity and achievement, hairstyles that take hours to create and that signal status and affiliation. Beauty isn't separate from function here. The most beautiful objects are also the most useful. A perfectly balanced hoe, a water pot with elegant proportions, a sleeping mat with intricate patterns. Form and function are inseparable. Aesthetic pleasure and practical utility are two aspects of the same thing. You think about music and dance, how they're woven through every aspect of life, how there are rhythms for work that make labor easier, how there are songs for every occasion, how dance is prayer, is celebration, is communication with the spirit world, is the expression of emotion too deep for words. You've danced at ceremonies, felt your body moving in patterns learned in childhood, felt the drums speaking through your bones, felt connected to everyone dancing with you, felt connected to all the people who have ever danced these sun dances, felt connected to the ancestors who taught them, felt connected to the spirits who received them. This connection is what holds the community together, not laws or force, but shared experience, shared meaning, shared understanding of what it means to be human, what it means to be part of this particular community, in this particular place, at this particular time. You think about the future, not the distant future, not generations ahead, but tomorrow, next week, next season. You have hopes. You want your children to survive, to thrive, to make good marriages, to have children of their own. You want good harvests. You want to avoid illness. You want peace in the community. You want to fulfill your obligations and be seen as a good person by those whose opinions matter. You don't think about progress in the way your modern mind might. You don't expect life to get dramatically better. You expect it to continue, to cycle through good times and bad, to provide enough to survive if you work hard and maintain right relationships with humans and spirits. This isn't pessimism. It's realism based on the experience of countless generations. But you do think about legacy, about what you'll leave behind. Not material wealth necessarily, though that matters too, but reputation, memory, the stories that will be told about you after you're gone, the way your children and grandchildren will remember you, whether you'll be honored as a good ancestor or forgotten as someone who failed to live properly. This concern with legacy shapes how you live, makes you consider the long-term consequences of your actions, makes you try to embody the values your community holds dear: generosity, courage, wisdom, loyalty, respect for elders, care for children, fair dealing in all your transactions. You're not perfect. You've made mistakes, failed obligations, hurt people, acted from selfishness or fear. But you've also tried, shown up, done what needed doing even when it was hard. This is what's remembered. Not perfection, but effort. Not never falling, but getting back up. Not never failing, but continuing anyway. Sleep is very close now. Your breathing has slowed, deepened. Your body is heavy and relaxed. Your mind is quiet. The thoughts that were so vivid a moment ago are fading, becoming indistinct, dissolving like mist in morning sun. You're lying on your mat in the Kingdom of Kongo, and you're also lying in your bed in your own time. You're both places simultaneously. You've traveled through time tonight, lived a day in a world vastly different from your own, but also fundamentally the same. The people of Congo wanted what you want: safety, connection, meaning, purpose. They loved their children as you love yours. They grieved their losses as you grieve. They found joy in simple pleasures, in good food, in beautiful things, in music and dance and stories, in the presence of people they cared about. They worked hard. They fulfilled their obligations. They navigated complex social relationships. They created beauty. They maintained traditions. They adapted to change. They survived. They passed their lives on to the next generation. They became ancestors, and in doing so, they participated in something larger than themselves, the great ongoing project of human civilization, of people trying to live together, trying to create meaning, trying to build something that lasts beyond their individual lives. You're part of that same project, in your own time, in your own way. The specifics are different, the technology, the politics, the daily rhythms. But the fundamental task is the same: to live with purpose, to connect with others, to create meaning, to pass something valuable on to those who come after. Tonight you've remembered this. You've connected with people across 500 years. You've felt the common humanity that links you to everyone who has ever lived, everyone who has ever worked and loved and struggled and found joy, everyone who has ever looked up at the stars and wondered, everyone who has ever told stories around a fire, everyone who has ever pulled covers up and settled into sleep. The Kingdom of Kongo is gone now. The political structure collapsed under the pressures of the slave trade and colonial exploitation. The people were scattered, the traditions disrupted. Much was lost, but not everything. The descendants of those people still live, still carry fragments of that culture, still honor those ancestors, still maintain connection to that history. And tonight, you've honored them too, by listening, by imagining, by allowing yourself to enter their world and see it from inside, by recognizing their full humanity, their complexity, their wisdom, their worth. This matters. This remembering, this honoring, this refusal to let the past disappear completely into silence and forgetting. You've been a witness tonight. You've held space for lives that might otherwise be reduced to abstractions, to statistics, to footnotes in history books that don't capture the rich reality of daily existence. You've walked to the water source. You've ground grain. You've sat by the fire. You've listened to stories. You've felt the weight of work and the peace of rest. You've lived a day in the Kingdom of Kongo. And now it's time to let it go, to release these images, these thoughts, these connections, to allow them to settle into your memory, where they'll remain, not as conscious knowledge, but as deep understanding, as expanded awareness of the breadth of human experience, as connection to the long story of which you're a part, Your breathing is slow and steady now. Your body is completely relaxed. The weight of the day, both your actual day and the day you've imagined in another time and place, settles over you like a blanket, like the covers you've pulled up, like the weight of history, like the presence of all the people who have ever lived and died and become part of the great story. You're safe, you're home, you're exactly where you need to be. The world outside continues its endless turning. The stars wheel overhead, the earth rotates, time flows forward, carrying you gently into tomorrow. But for now, there's only this moment, this breath, this peaceful surrender to sleep. The Kingdom of Kongo sleeps too. Its people on their mats, its fires burning low, its stories told for the night, its work done until morning, its daily rhythms paused in the gentle suspension that is sleep. Everything rests, everything releases, everything simply is. You are part of this rest, this release, this simple being. You've journeyed far tonight, through space and time, through lives not your own, through daily rhythms both foreign and familiar. You've expanded your understanding, deepened your empathy, connected with the great human story, and now you're coming home to yourself, to your own life, your own time, your own bed, your own body breathing quietly in the darkness, your own peaceful surrender to sleep. The fires die down, the stories settle, and the world grows still. Let your thoughts drift away like embers on the wind. Good night. You've journeyed far through time tonight. Now it's time to journey into dreams. Close your eyes, breathe, and let sleep find you.